Take a look at Mali. Take a look at that row of countries that goes from Mauritania to Mali to Niger to Chad to Sudan. Right? We're talking about the Sahara and to some extent the Sahel belt a little bit. Here's what I was told. I was given a briefing on this precise problem, the Berbers in a general way, by some officials of the Libyan government when I was there. This is of the Gaddafi Libyan government back in June and July of last year. And they pointed out, they said there is a comprehensive plan based in Morocco, but with the U.S., the British, and the Israelis, designed to foment a general revolt of the Berbers in order to destroy all national states, because that is the goal. The goal is what Zbigniew Brzezinski calls microstates, mini-states, the smashing, the breaking of existing countries, as you see in Libya, so that what comes out of it are tiny, impotent little entities that could never stand up to J.P. Morgan Chase or ExxonMobil or Halliburton or Total or any of British Petroleum, any of these others. The idea was that earlier last year, the King of Morocco, when he made his so-called reform speech, announced that the Kabyle language, the language of Berbers, in effect, was going to become the second official language of Morocco. So that the King of Morocco, with this, was bidding to become the patron of the Berbers, maybe in the same way that Qatar, Doha, is the patron of the jihadis and the what can we say, the rebels in Syria and other parts of the Arab world. And that the idea was, if you could foment a general uprising of the Berbers, you could destroy about a dozen countries across the Maghreb and then across the Sahara and across the Sahel. As you know, the Berbers come in many regional varieties, right? Sometimes they're called Kabyle, sometimes they're called Tuaregs, sometimes they're called Rifs. They have a website where I believe they call themselves Azadig. There's a website called Azadig World where you can see the whole thing in English, French, and some other languages. And the idea is that this is a geopolitical plan. Now let's apply this to Mali. The idea is that the revolt in northern Mali is a direct product of the destruction of Libya, because what had happened was that the rebels, NATO, had hired some fighters from northern Mali to go into Libya and fight against Gaddafi. So this was part of the rebellion. They were mercenaries. They were not pro-democracy fighters. They were simply mercenaries. Those anti-Gaddafi fighters had then returned to northern Mali, loaded with weapons that they had looted from the arms depots of the Libyan army and the Libyan state. They loaded those onto trucks, drove them down into Mali, and that's now the basis of the carving of Mali, as we see now, into two parts. Now, the response to that is what we saw in the last couple of weeks, that there's a coup which is really, it's not really opposed by the U.S. In other words, the coup in Mali by, I call him Captain Sonoko, but Captain Sonogu, and his group, this is obviously, now we're in the area of gang counter gang. Again, remember, the goal is to break up the country, to smash it into pieces. So if the anti-Gaddafi rebels and their hangers-on in the north of Mali are the gang, then we've now got Captain Sonogu and his gang as the opposition to that. And you see this, the imperialists can play on that, one against the other. They can introduce other elements in it. They can claim that Al-Qaeda is there, as I'm sure it is, and essentially what? Destroy the country. And if you look across the neighboring countries, you can see that they are also now going to be targeted, right? Look a little bit south, you've got Boko Haram in Nigeria. Look over at Morocco, you've still got Polisario, which is some kind of a liberation front with guerrilla fighters, right? It's an older one. Look at other areas, and you'll see that what's going on is a massive destabilization. The goal, again, destroy the countries, and to what end? The end is kick the Chinese out. The U.S. and the British are determined to deny China the oil and the raw materials of Africa. Therefore, we have George Clooney being mobilized on the issue of South Sudan. Therefore, we have Kony 2012 for Uganda. Therefore, we have U.S. forces in Kenya, U.S. forces in Uganda, U.S. forces in Somalia at different times. Tremendous pressure on Mugabe in Zimbabwe, where one of the big mineral deposits are, and so forth. Right. So they're interested in the minerals of Katanga, the minerals of Zimbabwe, the minerals of South Africa, the oil of South Sudan. And again, not so much that they want to develop it, because they're not interested in that so much, but to deny it, to deny these resources to the Chinese. The goal is to smash these countries. That's the strategic goal. The U.S. doesn't care about these issues one way or the other. The point is, you can use an ethnic uprising, and the grievances are often real, to smash the existing states. Again, the U.S. policy is what Zbigniew Brzezinski pointed out in one of his recent books. Microstates, mini-states, secessionism, rump states, the destruction of entities that can offer resistance and their replacement with entities that are impotent, petty, squabbling, pathetic, indefensible. Look at South Sudan. South Sudan is a great example of what they've done. And they'll continue to do it, and that process will never end. And the end point of that is warlordism. I would urge people to think very, very carefully about this, in the same way that I would urge, if you're in the Arab world, before you rebel, think about what you're getting. Any rebellion like this right now is going to be in the service of imperialism. It's going to be exploited by the imperialists to destroy these countries. I would say at this point in world history, almost any state is better than warlords, chaos, microstates, mates, the collapse of civilization. Any state, any existing state. And the existing states, whether we like them or not, they are the product of some kind of a historical process. In other words, they have some validity, even if the lines were drawn by the colonialists and all the things we know. Don't these existing states offer a better bulwark for self-defense against this tremendous imperialist offensive than the idea that it's time now to act out the national drama or the ethnic drama of the Berbers against the Arabs? I don't think so. I think the defense of the status quo is now the progressive option.